You probably all felt that earlier today because there was a lot of 8 seconds that built into the 5 hours in the arena. So instead of having me speak for an hour straight, how about we do this? How about you let me speak for 20 minutes, we'll take a break, and then get burgers and get something to eat. I think that makes a lot of sense. But before we get started, I just wanted to thank my riders today for working this hard. You all get it right. I know what you're capable of, and I asked you for a whole lot more than that, didn't I? I know that your brain can remember 3 things, so what do? I asked you to remember 6 things while also doing 2 post-2 sits and a canter. There's a technique that's called overloading, and it works like this. A marathon runner trains wearing ankle weights, which actually doesn't make a lot of sense because did they have to wear ankle weights when they run the race? It doesn't. They don't. But in fact, does it actually kind of make sense to ask more of yourself when you're training than the sport actually demands? Because if she trains with ankle weights, she develops greater strength and stamina, but when she gets to the race and takes the weights off, doesn't it feel easy compared to their training? So that's called overloading, and that principle is used in all sports. If you want to develop physical skills, you overload yourself physically. That's why we drop our stirrups. In the very beginning, when you dropped your stirrups, some of you felt it was really difficult. But you know that if you want to develop a strong leg and seat, you've got to be uncomfortable at that trot without stirrups because that's how you develop that strength. So by asking more of yourself physically, you develop physical skills like a strong leg. Now, I didn't ask a lot of you physically today. I asked you for lots of circles. You can develop physical skills by developing physical overload. We have to agree that developing mental skills is going to work the same way. See, I know that there will never ever come a time when you have to do 10, 20 change walk, half diagonal, 2 post-2 sits, 2 canter in exactly 90 seconds in any competition. Do y'all agree? You'll never be asked to do that in a competition. And then people are like, well, why do we do that in a clinic? Well, why do we train with ankle weights? You ask more of yourself in your training so that the sport feels almost easy in comparison. And the next time you go to a dressage show and you have your test memorized, do y'all agree it's going to feel a whole lot easier than that? The whole point of training sessions is to not just to identify what we're strong at, but to push ourselves so that we can identify some sort of weaknesses or chinks in our armor and then start to develop those. So I want to thank you guys. I know the clinic was too hard. It's too difficult. It's outside your comfort zone. But you didn't quit. You didn't give up. I don't think anybody cried. Not yet anyways. The day's not done. So guys, thanks for working with me today. And how many of you are going to be show jumping with me tomorrow? We're going to do similar stuff tomorrow. I'll be overloading you emotionally tomorrow as well to see if you can stay focused. Remember, for those of you that missed the very beginning, it takes 400 repetitions to learn a new skill, like focus or remembering things under pressure. Unless, of course, you create a skill that looks more like a game. The brain adapts quicker to developing new skills when you play games. So we're going to play a similar game tomorrow, but we'll be jumping. I think you guys will like it. All right, before we start the seminar, we're going to start the seminar with a fun story. Now, I didn't say a funny story. Even though some of you are probably going to want to laugh, like uncomfortably because you think you want to laugh, but it's actually not a very funny story, but it's a fun story. And part of what makes it a fun story, and it has nothing to do with riding, because it's a story about fish. So I'll get to the point in a minute. So here we go. So there's these 2 fishermen, right? And one fisherman notices something kind of weird about the other fisherman. He notices that every time he catches a really big, nice fish, he gets sad and he throws it back. But when he catches like the little tiny fishes, he like gets super happy and he puts them in his box and he gets ready to take them home for dinner. And the other fisherman thought that was weird. Why throw the big ones back and keep the little? So he asks, why are you throwing the big ones back and keeping the little ones? And the fisherman goes, oh, it's because my frying pan's too small. Do y'all see why you think you should laugh but it's not funny? Like they can't get over the fact that it's actually not very funny. But what's the moral of the story? Get a bigger frying pan. Do y'all agree? Like get a bigger frying pan. So I wonder if maybe some of us walk around with a small frying pan. You see, I believe that riding gives us the world's most amazing opportunities, the world's most brilliant, bold, brave opportunities. I think riding gives us the joy of the horse, the love of the sport, camaraderie, the time spent with your peers. Do you all agree that riding gives us amazing opportunities? The happiness, the joy, the love of being around a horse. Do you all agree that's so important to us? But I wonder if some of us walk around with a frying pan that's so small that we don't capture all of that opportunity, that we don't always catch the happiness, that we don't always catch the joy. What kind of things could give us a small frying pan? Oh, I know. How many of you here worry when people watch you ride? Put your hands up. This is going to be one of those. Okay. What about judges? How many of you freak out just a little bit when you're being judged? Oh, okay, cool. How many of you are a little afraid you're not going to win sometimes? How many of you are afraid that you might let somebody down? How many of you are afraid you might not live up to someone's expectations? Guys, every time you feel one of those things, do you all agree you don't catch the great opportunity that comes in the form of the love of the sport? See, every time I worry about letting somebody down, or every time I worry about being judged, I'm no longer completely in touch with the sport. I'm now feeling different things. It's like I got a small frying pan, and the love and the joy and the happiness is out there, but it's too small, I can't catch it all because I'm worried about letting people down or not living up to other people's expectations. So riders, why did we start a seminar about horses talking about fish? Well, the subject of tonight's seminar is called the fishbowl effect. There's a reason. The fishbowl effect. So that's what we're going to talk about for the next 20 minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll wrap up our conversation. So what's the fishbowl effect? Riders, the fishbowl effect is show jitters. The fishbowl effect is when you feel like you're in a fishbowl. There's glass on all sides, top and bottom. Everybody's looking at you. Everybody's talking about you. A lot of people are critical about you. So they say the most common example of the fishbowl effect is a public speaker, right? Because fishbowl effect doesn't just affect equestrians, it affects everybody. So the public speaker, for the first time he's up on stage, he's nervous that people are watching, he's afraid he's going to make a mistake and forget something. Do you all agree what the fishbowl effect is? He feels he's in a fishbowl, everybody's staring at him, everybody expects something from him, and as a result, he feels pressure. Now, if you go back from the seminar today, you know what happens to us under pressure. We rush, we get forgetful, and we make really poor decisions or no decisions at all. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to tell you the 8 causes of show jitters. There are 8 things that all of us, regardless of whether you're an equestrian, whether you're a public speaker, there is 8 things that cause performance anxiety. There's 8 things that cause us to be nervous whenever we're focusing on performance. Did you get a bloody nose? Where's the bathroom? Where'd Dad go? She's cool, right?
Yeah, she's fine.
Okay, so somebody take notes for her because we're now going to start. Okay? So riders, there are 8 causes of the fishbowl effect. There are 8 causes of show jitters. I'm just going to do a quick thing here. We're getting to a part where if you miss it, you won't be able to catch that. Side, I want you to leave lots of room for notes if you want, but on the left side of the paper, I'm going to now tell you the 8 causes of show jitters. And the whole purpose of this is we can become familiar with what the causes are, then we know what we can solve. All right, I think she's coming in. Did you get a pen and paper? There she goes. All right, the first fear that causes show jitters, failure. So just write failure on the left side of your page, failure. You know what this is? This is the fear of doing your best and it not being enough. Fear of giving 100% and coming up short. Underneath failure, the second fear that puts us into the fishbowl effect, imperfections. So write imperfections down. This is the fear of other people seeing you imperfect. So here's kind of a neat little story. I grew up in a bit of a different way than all of you. I grew up as the only boy in a barn full of posture-perfect little girls. Like all these amazing, pretty little posture-perfect little girls. But I was this tall, goofy, gangly, uncoordinated guy, right? And I didn't feel like I fit in. But what I did know is I had like really bad posture and a really, really swingy leg. Like I couldn't control my leg swing for like a long time. And I know my leg swung a lot because literally 40 years later, I still can't grow hair on the inside of my legs. It gave up. It's like, I'm not even trying anymore. You just kind of rubbed me off. So literally. So guys, all I knew that when I was riding is that all of you were talking about my leg. And you were all saying, he doesn't belong. He doesn't look like everybody else. He doesn't fit in. Look at his leg. Do you all agree that? I really had a fear of my own imperfections. Go down your paper. You have failure, you have imperfections. Underneath imperfections, spectators. So you've probably felt this before. This is when you ride really well at the barn after school at 3:45. But then when you go to a rating or a rally or a horse show, you get tense and tight and anxious and nervous, and you get forgetful or you underperform. So now it's important for us to understand spectators can be strangers in a stadium, but spectators can also be moms and dads, brothers and sisters, boyfriends and girlfriends. My daughter's a lacrosse player. She plays wicked good lacrosse until her boyfriend watches. And then she's all like trying not to mess up, but she messes up more because she's feeling the pressure of messing up. Go down to the next stage. Doing okay. All right, underneath failure, perfections, and spectators, write harm and humiliation. Harm and humiliation. All right, now, in regular sports psychology, this is just humiliation. This is the fear of embarrassment. This is the fear of being disqualified, being eliminated, but this is also the fear of falling. All right, the fear of harm and humiliation. Go down your paper. Next one, the fifth fear that puts us into the fishbowl effect, being judged. So 2 words, being judged. See, I grew up with this huge fear of being judged because I was the only boy, and I was on colored horses, and I didn't think the judges like boys or horses. They just were critical. They told me what I was doing wrong. But what I needed to remember is that it is constructive criticism, not destructive criticism. Yet many of us get ourselves worried about all of the criticism coming our way. Yet we need to remember that we can't learn until we receive that criticism. Go down your paper. Underneath being judged, opponents. Now this is a big one. Opponents. So we're going to talk about this one for a minute. So it's really important for us to understand something. Many of us are afraid of losing to somebody or becoming second or beat or be beaten or whatever that is. However, it's really important for us to understand that opponents don't really exist. Opponents are not there to intimidate you. They're not there to break you down and create pressure. An opponent is only there to motivate you to be your best. So it's not intimidate, but motivate. And I can say those words, but this story will help you to understand the principle a little bit better. So last summer, you all did what I did. You watched the Summer Olympics. In the Summer Olympics, you watched Katie Ledecky, the swimmer. Now, Katie Ledecky has entered in this race that she has not lost in 6 years. They pretty much got her name printed on the medal already. Oh, but there is this high school girl in Australia who's been working really hard. And guess what happened at the Olympics? The high school girl beat Ledecky in a race that she was never supposed to lose. Oh my gosh. And while those 2 athletes are still in the pool, the high school girl from Australia looks at Ledecky and said, I couldn't have done this without you. You have been the reason I've gone out of bed at 5 o'clock in the morning for 5 straight years. You've been my mentor, my motivator. You've been my everything. And Ledecky looks at her and says, right now the only thing better than winning the gold is seeing you win it. These are the 2 most supreme athletes on the planet, and they're not intimidating each other. They're not against each other. They're not hoping one will lose so that they can look better. They're simply motivating each other, lane by lane, to be their very best. We need to remember, riders, opponents should never intimidate you. They should always simply motivate you. It's so important because you know what happens to us under pressure. But if you focus on opponents, beat or be beaten, you will create pressure, and then you know that you underperformed when you ride with pressure. Go down your paper. Under opponents, winning and losing. So this is the fear of doing your best and losing, not winning. This is the fear of coming in second. This is the fear of underperforming. And the last one, underneath winning and losing, letting someone down. Letting someone down. So I told you I grew up in a bit of a weird way. I was the only boy in that barn, but I actually started to ride for a different reason than many of the people here also. You want to know why I started to ride horses? It's not because mom and dad came from horses. They don't know anything about my sport. It's because when I was 13, I had a girlfriend, and her father owned a 100-jumper barn. So if I wanted to hang out with a girl, where did I have to go? I had to go to the barn. And I kept going to the barn, and guess what I finally found when I went to the barn? More girls. Are you kidding? I got the code cracked. This is brilliant. But then I found the love of the horse, and that's what took me forward into my career. But all my parents know is they know nothing about my sport. But as a young boy, you know what I did know? How much money I was costing them. They knew nothing about my sport. They didn't know why I was there. They thought I was there for the wrong reason. I just knew how much I was costing them. Hey guys, quick question. When I was growing up as a young rider, I was worried about you talking about my swinging leg. I was nervous about judges and petrified of letting my parents down. Did I ride well as a young rider? I didn't, did I? I didn't. Because all of the things in my head were negative. Do you all agree? How could I possibly ride well when I'm worried about judges and you talking about my leg and letting my parents down? My brain was so full of the negative stuff I couldn't ride positively. So riders, if we can identify what causes show jitters, then we can stop them. I wish that I knew back then what I know now. I would have made an effort to become a mentally different rider. If we could just remember the 8 fishbowl fears, then we could start to uncover how to stop them. I wish there was a trick to remember the fears. I wish there was a trick.
There is one.
Look at your paper.
Fishbowl.
It's right there. Girls, y'all see it? It's an acronym. Look down your paper. FISHBOWL. That's why I wanted you to take notes. Or at least that's the first reason I wanted you to take notes. They say that unless you're aware of things that could hurt you, then you bump into those things from time to time. So that's all pretty cool, but this is going to be even more cool. 2 or 3 of those things on that paper are yours. So look at that paper, guys. They say that you can't call yourself courageous unless you allow yourself to be vulnerable. I wonder how many of you here are willing to let me know which of those fears are yours? Like just one of them. Like take a look at it. Like 2 or 3 of them are yours. What do you think, Logan?
Opponents, I literally go through the list when I get them and highlight if I've seen the riders before.
Oh, you do you?
And
Yeah.
so like I kind of, even before I even get to the show, I already.
You're already psyched out or psyched up or pumped up or stressed out or something, right? Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. Just reevaluate how you're seeing the opponents. Like you know those girls. Maybe you look forward to seeing them again. Maybe you love their horse. You get to see their horse. Something like that. Thanks, Logan. What else? Does anybody else want to share one?
Winning and losing. I don't like losing.
You don't like losing. How's that working out for you? Does it make you nervous to lose?
Yeah.
Well, okay. What happens to you when you get nervous? What happens to your brain when you feel pressure?
Well,
What are the 3 things I taught you today? I'll give you the first one. You speed up. You go too fast.
yes, I speed up. I forget,
Yeah. And the third one?
and I don't do them well.
Well, that's about it, right? You're just not your very best, right? So here's the problem. When we have a fear of failing or a fear of losing, we feel the pressure, and then that makes us underperform. It kind of makes us create what we're trying to avoid. So guys, if we could stop worrying about opponents and stop worrying about losing, would life be better? Like a little better? And if life felt a little better, would you feel less pressure? And if you felt less pressure, you would remember things and make better decisions. Who else has one they want to share with us? Any from you?
Letting someone down.
That's a pretty big one, right? Yeah. What do you think?
Spectators.
Spectators, people watching. Yeah, a lot of people feel that one. Over on this side.
Is letting someone down.
That's a big one, right? Yeah. Ladies, what do you guys, anything different?
The harm and humiliation.
Yeah.
Imperfection.
That comes with it.
Imperfection.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do something. Let's talk about that right now. Riders, think about this. Would it surprise you if the majority of adult riders list as one of their 3 harm and humiliation? And you want to know why? Because we've all broken a clavicle or 2 before. You want to know why they don't list that as one of their 3?
They bounce
Because
better.
they don't know what a clavicle is. But it's true, like you're right. As we grow older, we suffer more experiences, and then the brain starts to say, this doesn't seem to be in line with the survival instinct, so let's give you a fear. For example, I have a fear of heights because I fell off a mountain once. That makes perfect sense. The brain is trying to keep me away from death by keeping you fearful of heights. That makes perfect sense. So guys, I don't think it surprises you that as we get older, we have harm and humiliation as one of our 3. But this is what surprised all of us in the very beginning when we started to do these studies. Well, adults list harm and humiliation as one of their 3. Did you realize that over 90% of young riders list letting someone down? as one of their three. Girls, how many of you think letting someone down might be on your list? Go ahead, show me your hands. Letting somebody down.
She's laughing.
So 6 out of 7. 7 out of 8, whatever that is. So guys, I'm not sure how this happened, right? Because I see the support of parents here and that sort of thing. But something's happened at some part in our society where young athletes are afraid of letting parents down. It's an interesting conversation that maybe we all need to kind of think a little tiny bit about. Because if they can lose that, and if we can lose the fear of harm and humiliation, then all of a sudden the pressure goes away and we can finally ride to our potential. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break right now. These girls need a break. They sat down way too long as it is. I think it's time for dinner. So what we've done for the first half of this seminar is we've covered what gets us into the fishbowl, what causes show jitters. When we come back, I'm going to give you the 5 steps to get out of the fishbowl. The 5 steps to, what are you guys even talking about over there? Okay guys, hamburgers are, here comes your homework. Mask. M-A-S-K. Huh. So let's talk about each of these. The suggestion is put effort over outcome, and the homework is mask. So what is effort over outcome? So riders, sports psychologists have now figured out there are 2 causes of the 8 fishbowl fears. Meaning there are 2 things that cause that really uncomfortable list of 8 bad things. There are 2 things. The first thing that causes the fishbowl fears is focusing on outcomes. Riders, look at the 8 fishbowl fears. If you look closely, 4 of them are caused by focusing on outcomes. Which of your 8 fishbowl fears are caused by focusing on outcomes? Let me have one over here.
Winning and losing.
Is winning and losing an outcome? Yes, it is. What else is an outcome? Logan? Letting somebody down? What else?
Failure.
Failure is an outcome, isn't it? You did your best, it didn't work out, it's a total outcome. Harm and humiliation is an outcome, isn't it? So riders, half of those fishbowl fears are simply caused by focusing on outcomes. The color of the ribbon, beat or be beaten, focusing on opponents beating you or losing to them. Riders, if we can avoid the focusing on outcomes, we can get rid of half of all show jitters simply by doing one thing. No longer focusing on the outcome, but instead focusing on the effort. Now, a lot of people like me have taught, a lot of people like you, focus on the effort, do your best, don't worry about winning or losing, don't focus on the win, but focus on what you need to do to make it happen. People like me tell you these things all the time, but let me see if I can help you do it by giving you some homework. So your homework is called mask. The word mask is a blended word. So blended words create things like sporks and jeggings and bromance and talkaholic. Y'all know what a blended word is, okay? So a mask is a blended word made up of 2 other words, mental task, mask. That's what a mask is, a mental task that you tell yourself, I'm going to focus on this task so I no longer focus on outcomes. You teach yourself to focus on something productive so that you're not focusing on something destructive. Now here's the good news. Your brain can focus on up to 3 masks. So you can tell yourself, tomorrow when I ride stadium with coach, I'm going to focus on these 3 things. Those 3 things are your masks. It's kind of like this. You have a bucket and you put 3 things in that bucket. Now when the 3 things are in the bucket, your brain is full because your brain can only focus on 3 things in one given period. So when you put 3 things in your bucket, it's full. Everything else flows off the sides. Riders, when I was young, the 3 masks that I put into my bucket were worrying about you talking about my leg, judges criticizing me, and letting my parents down. Those were the 3 mental tasks I put in my bucket. Did I ride well? I didn't. You know why? Because everything else that creates success was flowing off the side. Want you to remember this. Your brain is full at 3. So what are your 3 masks going to be? Here are mine. So when I go stadium riders, listen carefully. Here are the 3 things I focus on. The first thing I focus on when I ride stadium are corners. See, I think if I balance my corners, I get a great track and good balance towards my fence. I think corners are really important. My second mental mask is quality canter. Because when I've got the 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, when I have that really great rhythm, that great quality canter, I'm like a rock star. I'm so good when I get that good rhythmical quality canter. And my third mask are my course notes. So I focus on striding between fences and footing and shading and whatever else I need to do. So riders, when I show jump, these are the 3 and only 3 things I focus on. Balance my corners, quality canter, and my course notes. Corners, canter, course notes. Those are my 3 masks. Now riders, if I balance my corners and get great quality canter, and I remember my course, is there a chance I'll have a successful ride?
Yes.
You all agree I will? Riders, will I win?
Depends on how everybody else does.
Like, who knows? So why even focus on it? You can't control it, so why are we spending so much time focusing on something we can't control? It just creates the pressure. So riders, in order to come up with your masks, 2 steps. Figure out which three things that you need to do to be most successful. Listen to the lessons taught to you by your teachers. What do you constantly hear? Will your masks be balance my transitions, keep my pace, and my eyes up? Those would be 3 really good masks. Would your masks be relax, memorize my course? I don't know. All of you, I want you to think about the lessons that you've been taught and what your instructors tell you to focus on. And then I want you to find 3 of them and make them your masks. Now, this is really interesting because there are many more things you need to focus on than 3. All of the others, you just need to trust. Remember, these are the 3 masks I focus on while show jumping. Corners, quality canter, course notes. I don't even think about distances. I don't worry about equitation. I'm just trusting that my experience will give me the distances and my equitation is what it needs to be. Your brain is full at 3. If you try and jam 10, 11, 12 things in that bucket, you get that analysis paralysis, you get tense, you get tight, and you feel the pressure. Riders, you can focus on 3 things. In today's clinic, I asked you to focus on remembering your course, thinking of the clock, and ending on,
Doing their games.
doing their gates. Let's do this. So remember the course, remember your gates, think of the clock. Those were your 3 masks today. I mean, it was all really, really well planned out. I gave you what I wanted you to think about because those 3 things can create success. While you're in there, are you worried about people watching? Are you worried about your legs swinging? Perhaps not, because you're so busy focusing on the masks that you were able to stay kind of locked on your job. So your first piece of homework, what are your 3 masks? I want you to figure them out, I want you to write them down, and then I want you to give them to your trainer. Because now your trainer knows what you believe are the 3 most important things that separate you from your success. So does anybody want to share a mask with me? What do you think, Logan? So give me one.
So I've just always been like control because I've just always struggled with not like finding that balance in between.
Yeah.
Because like running and being so slow that I feel like I can't get over it.
So you either run flat and fast in the fence, or you have no horse, he's behind your leg, right? Yeah. So you're looking for that Goldilocks, right? Not too fast, not too slow, just right. So control, but it's also pace, isn't it? Like control pace, or control and pace. Maybe those are 2.
Yeah, because like I feel like what I like is I like the speed if I can handle it. But there's times that I always just feel like I can't handle it, and then I just freeze and go.
And most horses can't handle the speed either, because a horse, in order to use themselves effectively over a fence, they need to have that potential energy, you know, that kind of like a spring. Whereas when they're really fast, they're just fast and flat. They don't have the ability to actually work. So you're right, I agree. I think pace is a really important mask. I think that control is an important mask. Girls, anything else? Anybody thinking of equitation? Is that important to you guys? Is that something that maybe you need to focus on? What about your leg? So think about this, guys. I want you all to come up with 3 masks. I'm going to do these 3 things today. These are the 3 things I'm going to focus on. Now, your brain bucket is full. So focus on those 3 things and let everything else just be muscle memory. See, these 3 things are conscious. When you focus on things consciously, you're good. But it's the subconscious stuff that creates the great. It's the muscle memory stuff. So leave some of it to the conscious, your 3 things, and then trust that a bunch of it is going to be muscle memory. Your first piece of homework, put effort over outcome. No longer define yourself by the outcomes, but by the effort that you put into it. And do that by coming up with 3 maths. Focus on 3 pieces of effort, and you'll be surprised. Your brain no longer is thinking about opponents or judges because the 3 things in the bucket are positive, and all the negative stuff has to flow off the outside. Go down your paper, beside the letter M. Please write, message over the mess. Message over the mess. What does that mean? Message over the mess. You know what it means. Learn from your mistakes. You have the choice. You can focus on the mess, or you can focus on what you learned. You can focus on the mess or the message. Oh,
You need a pen.
that's good. You can focus on the message, or you can focus on the mess. Hey guys, look at the word message. What's hidden inside there?
Yes.
I promise you guys, every single message will be delivered with a little message, or every single message will come with a little mess inside. Remember this, you will learn from your mistakes. Every time we make a mistake, we feel bad about ourselves, but it's such a brilliant opportunity to learn. Unless, of course, we're focusing on the mess and not the message. You have the choice. Focus on the mess or focus on what you learn. It's a trick question. It's pretty difficult. Not too many people get this answer right. But what is a mistake?
An opportunity to learn.
Good. Think back about 60 seconds earlier. What is a mistake? Mistakes are outcomes. Right? Focus on effort, not outcomes. Focus on the message. That's hard to do because the mistake is right there staring you in the face. But what did you learn? That's the hard part. It's so easy for us to focus on outcomes. It's a color of a ribbon or a placement on a podium or a color of a medal. Outcomes are so easy for us to see, but we need to train ourselves to focus on the effort. Riders, it is easy to focus on colors and ribbons. It's easy to focus and feel bad about the mistake. What's really hard is to figure out what you just learned. So riders, you wrote message over the mess dash mistake quota. Mistake quota. Quota is spelled Q-U-O-T-A. Mistake quota. So what's a mistake quota? Riders, starting today and moving forward, I want you to give yourself permission to make 3 mistakes in every single ride. I said this before, but you picked the wrong sport if you want to do everything perfectly. When you give yourself the permission to be imperfect, you remove pressure. And when you remove pressure, you start to perform. So a mistake quota is when you give yourself permission to be less than perfect, which you already know that you are. Now, the most common mistake quota in sports psychology is 3. Give yourself 3 mistakes in today's lesson. If in today's lesson you only use 2 mistakes, then you carry 1 over for tomorrow. You got 4 mistakes in your lesson tomorrow. If you use 4 mistakes today, you borrowed 1 from tomorrow. Learn from the mistake today. Don't do it again. Tomorrow, you only have 2 mistakes. So a mistake quota is where you literally give yourself permission to be okay, not always being perfectly okay. I know it's a little confusing, so this is how, or at least this silly little story will help you understand how to use a mistake quota. So my daughter she just turned 16. But when she turned 15, she got her permit on her birthday. So for an entire year, guess what I got to do with my daughter? I get to be in a car. It was like so great. I never see her anymore now that she has her driver's license. But I noticed in the very beginning, Emma, when she was learning to drive, she got really nervous. So I said, Emma, let's do that mistake quota thing that we teach in training camp. And she goes, we're going to drive for 5 minutes, and you think I'm going to make 3 mistakes? And I'm like, yes, I do. And she's like, you think so little of my driving? I'm like, no, but whenever you do something new, it's going to be difficult. Let's expect less than perfection. So she goes, okay, whatever. So this is what Emma does, right? She's driving down this really busy road and she turns right onto another busy road. She gets to the corner, there's a car coming through the intersection, so she goes and she cuts him off. And I'm like, oh my God. And we stopped and I said, wow, Emma, that was really weird. You saw him coming, but you went anyways. And she goes, Papa, when I turned, I saw him. But I saw him going to the second lane, that's why I went into the inside lane. But when I got into the inside lane, it was only then that I saw the picture of the bike on the ground and the words that said bike lane. Emma just turned into the bike lane by mistake. I mean, it has white lines, it looks like a lane, it's kind of skinny, she's never seen them before. Emma just made a mistake. And I thought she'd be like really sad or upset, but instead she was like, 1. And I'm like, what? And she goes, you said we're going to do the mistake quota thing. That's just one mistake. And I'm like, good on you. So what did we do, guys? So we go to Chick-fil-A, right? So we're in this wicked Chick-fil-A lineup. 3 rows, cars everywhere. And Lindsay, Emma's best friend's in the back seat. So I think she's going to be really nervous because of this spectator kind of a thing, right? And then we're sitting in the Chick-fil-A lineup, and all of a sudden, boom, boom. And from the back seat, Lindsay goes, curb! Emma just ran over the curb with the Chick-fil-A lineup. Oh my gosh. And I think she's going to be super sad, but instead she's like, dude! Hey guys, it was so clear. When Emma gave herself permission to be imperfect, the pressure was off. She was enjoying riding or driving more. She was doing better. She wasn't feeling the pressure anymore. Riders, remember how we have that small frying pan? One thing that shrinks our frying pan is the fear of failure, is the fear of making a mistake. Guys, don't be afraid of it. It's happening. If you're riding with me tomorrow, it's going to happen a lot tomorrow. If we're afraid of something, then that holds us back. But if we're no longer afraid of it, then we can move forward. So riders, starting tomorrow, how many of you, when you make a mistake out there in my clinic tomorrow, will go, 1? It'd be so cool if somebody would yell 1 tomorrow in the middle of the clinic. Like, I did my best, awesome effort, not a great outcome, but good effort. Riders, if we can do this, if you can focus on 3 things and be okay making 3 mistakes from time to time, do you all agree the pressure comes down? And if the pressure comes down, you get out of the fishbowl because that's what puts you in there. Go down your paper. P, beside the letter P, please write patience over perfection. Patience over perfection. So riders, the problem with making mistakes is they sting a little bit, don't they? Like when you make a mistake, you get bummed out. It's easy because the brain again snaps onto the outcome. Oh, it wasn't very good, so now I feel bad about myself. The problem with mistakes is they sting a little bit. So you know what they say is really important for you to do every time you make a mistake? After making a mistake? It's really important to be patient with yourself and to mope a little bit. Did you all write patience over perfection? Dash moping. Dash moping. Your homework is to mope around, to be bummed out. And it's okay. As a matter of fact, they say when you make a mistake, you're supposed to be bummed out for a few seconds so that you can process it, learn from it, and then move on. So riders, I guess what I'm saying is I know it hurts when you make mistakes. I know it bums you out. So the next time you make a little mistake, spend a few seconds moping. Be okay with not being okay. The length of the moping period is defined by the severity of the mistake. So I asked one young rider, I said, what were your 3 mistakes today? She goes, first mistake, I ended up on my pony's neck. And I'm like, yikes, good mistake. How long did you mope for? She goes, like 3 seconds. Because I was between fence 5 and 6. I had to like get back into tack. I thought that was pretty good. I said, cool, what was your second mistake? She goes, not a big deal, but I'm a pony clubber. I dropped my tack on the ground today. I don't like doing that. I felt bad. I said, how long did you mope for? She goes, like 3 seconds. Coach, not a big deal. I'm like, okay, cool. But then I said, what was your third mistake? And I'm expecting a horse story, right? But no. She goes, oh my gosh, the third mistake was so bad. I'm like, what? She goes, I stepped on my dog's tail. And I'm like, what? And she goes, no. Like with the heel of my boot, and it cracked. Like it crunched. And he screamed, and I said, oh my God, what did you do? She says, I threw myself on the ground, and I hugged him, and I petted him, and I kissed him for like 3 full minutes. And I said, what'd you do after 3 minutes? She goes, I stood up and I went and rode. I did what I needed to do. I moped. Now guys, if you stand on your dog's tail and I'm like, whatever, go, 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 and he's crying out and I said, go, ride. No. Are you ready to go ride? While you're riding, what are you thinking about? You're thinking about what you didn't satisfy earlier, like I wish I could have done this. Riders, you are going to make mistakes and you are human. When you make a mistake, be bummed out for a second. Take 3 seconds and go, dang it, dang it, dang it, whatever, and then move on. So, patience over perfection dash moping. Now remember, riders, the normal moping period does not exceed 3 seconds. And there's something else important about that moping period. Let's talk about it now. Go down your page. Beside the letter E-M-P-T, tell over yell. Tell over yell. There is only one purpose of the moping period, and that is to figure out the message in the mess. That's it, right guys? You did your best. It wasn't very good. Be bummed out for a second. What was the message? What did you learn? Now move on. Tell over yell dash mover. M-O-V-E-R. Your 4th piece of homework is called a mover. Tell over yell dash mover. So what's a mover? A mover is a comment that you yell at yourself that ends the moping period. Because once you start moping, it's easy to kind of keep moping. You need to be able to stop it. The most common of all the most common of all movers are 3 words. Okay, move on. And this is the way it works. Here's another fun, horrible little story. So I made a huge mistake recently. Like last year I made a really big mistake. You want to know what I did? I remodeled my own bathroom. Like, such a bad idea. Like, who would think that this dad bod could do that? Not me. I'm not that guy. But you know what I did? I bought this shower thing, and I bought cement, and I mixed the cement up, and I put the cement down, and I took the shower thing, and I did a little of this and a little of that, and then my wife was like, dinner, and I'm like, oh, good. And I come back, and I'm like, oh, it's like super crooked. Like, it's wicked crooked. And I try and fix it, but the cement is set, and I'm like, oh my gosh, now I'm freaking out. So I run and I get my buddy who knows this stuff, and he looks at it and he goes, oh, it's really crooked. And I'm like, I know. What are we going to do about it, right? And he goes, I don't know what we're going to do about it, but I know what you're going to do. He says, you're going to go to the garage, you're going to get the biggest hammer you have. You're going to break that shower up into little pieces, and you're going to put them all into garbage, and then you're going to go buy another $900 shower. And you'll do better the next time. And then he said the worst thing, he goes, just get over it, just do it. No, I'm not ready. That's a big hit, right guys? $900. I'm not ready to just get over it. I need to mope a little bit. But I'm really careful, because I know that when I start moping, it's hard to stop. So you know what I did? I excused him. I set my watch for 3 minutes, and then I went, dang it, dang it, dang it, dang it, dang it. Dang it, dang it, dang it, dang it. Dang it, dang it. Beep, and then I went, okay, move on. It was shocking. Stop. Done. Like I learned this stuff in university, but it was the first time I had to really put it into action. I was shocked at how it worked. Riders, the purpose of the mover is to move you from the past, where the mistake lives, back into the present moment. That's why they call it a mover. It moves you from the past back into the present. Hey riders, listen carefully. If you could think of 3 positive things, and be okay making 3 mistakes, and being allowed to be a little upset for 3 seconds after the mistakes, but then ending the moping period with, okay, move on. Do y'all agree that maybe you won't feel so much pressure anymore? Now you're focusing on the positive. You're okay making mistakes, because when you're okay making mistakes, you don't add more pressure to yourself. You learn from them instead, and then you move on. All right, go down your paper. Here we go. The last one, the letter Y. Hey, riders, I teased you like 45 minutes ago. I told you that there were 2 causes of the 8 fishbowl fears. I told you what one of them was, and I asked you to look at those 8 fishbowl fears, and you found 4 of them. Who can remember what that was? What one thing caused half of your 8 fishbowl fears?
Failure. Well, no, the outcome.
The outcome. Okay, do y'all get that, guys? Focusing on outcome. Winning, losing, letting people down, failure, humiliation, focusing on outcome. See, I told you back then that there were 2 things, and you found one that captured half of them. But I didn't tell you the other one, did I? But I'll tell you now. Riders, The two things that cause all 8 fishbowl fears are focusing on outcomes and outgroups. Outgroups. Riders. What's an outgroup? An outgroup is anybody that is not you. Focusing on anybody that is not you. Look at your 8 fishbowl fears. Where are they? Who on that list is not you?
Opponents,
Opponents? Spectators?
Letting someone down.
Letting someone down? Judges. Remember we talked about people commenting on my swinging leg? It's another one, isn't it? Riders, if you look at those 8 fishbowl fears, half of them are caused by focusing on outcomes and half of them are caused by focusing on other people. We know what puts us into the fishbowl. Worrying about outcomes and other people. That causes pressure. We now know how to get out of the fishbowl. Stop worrying about outcomes and other people. Focus on you and focus on your efforts. If you can focus on you and your efforts, then all of a sudden you tap into this potential that is crazy. Something that you never thought you were capable of because you thought you were capable of accomplishing this, but now that you've lost the pressure that you put yourself under, all of a sudden you're performing better. So, we wrote you over others, dash, here comes your last piece of homework. Your last piece of homework is something called the maker. You see what we've done tonight? We've had 2 acronyms. The first acronym teaches you about the 8 fishbowl fears. The second acronym, empty, teaches you how to get out of the fishbowl. But we've also created your homework in the form of alliteration. Your homework is masks, mistakes, mopes, makers, and movers. But what's a maker? Your last piece of homework is a maker. A maker is a comment that makes everything better. There's actually been proven there is one sentence you can say to make everything feel better. And I'm going to give you that maker right now. And then you're not going to believe it, and then I'll tell you about it, and then it'll make sense. The most common of all makers, the most common sentence that removes pressure is this. Ready to write it down? I will do my best. I will do my best. Wait a second. How does that all amazing? How does that make anything better? I will do my best. Riders, I want you to listen really carefully to this. You see, because to anybody who loves you, they will never expect you to be perfect. They will never expect you to never lose. They will never ever expect you to win every single time. To anybody who loves you, you will never ever be first or first loser. Do you all agree? To anybody who loves you, from your parents to your trainers to your horses, they will never expect you to be perfect. They will never expect you to do everything right all the time. However, the people who love you, what will they expect?
Your best.
They will expect that you do your very best. With my kids, I don't need them to get straight A's in school. I just need to see them studying hard. I'm focused on their effort, not the outcome. The letter A grade is an outcome. The homework is the effort. So riders, I will do my best. I swear you guys, this is like a shield that can block so many bad things from you. Because this is what you do. You're nervous, you're tense. Your parents come up to you and do what parents always do in that nervous voice. They go, good luck. And you're like, oh, what do I say now? How about you say this? I'll do my best. Did you just tell your parents you will win today? Did you just tell your wife that you won't lose? What did you say? I'm not going to focus on outcomes. I'll focus on my effort. I'll do my best. Now here's the problem. You go into the arena and you pull the first rail. And you get bummed out, which makes you pull the second rail. And now your heart's broken. You said you were going to do your best, but it's not going very well. Can you quit now? You can't. Because what did you promise? That you'll do your best. And your best doesn't look like giving up when things get bad. So you stay in there, you start to get better, your last 3 fences are the best of all, you exit the arena, you go up, I go to my wife and I go, man, I was so sad when that first fence came down, the second fence broke my heart, but I promised myself that I would do my best. I didn't quit, I didn't give up. It's not the outcome that I wanted today, but my effort was brilliant. My effort was amazing because me before would have quit. I did my best. Riders, it's called a maker because it takes the pain away from disappointing outcomes because it shifts the focus back onto your efforts. And it's still hard to kind of believe that, so let me see if I can blow your mind before I let you go. Here we go. Riders, not rhetorical question, please answer. When your horse does his or her very best and still makes a mistake, do you love him or her any less? Are you sure? Why not? Like, why not?
Well, mine because they're working on it and they're training and they're getting better. And it's part of the process.
Very good. Oh, wow. That's very mature of you to say. So cool. Great. So your horse did her very best, but she still made a mistake. Why don't we love them any less?
Because they did their best.
What?
Because the horse did their best.
Wait a second. Your best friend did her very best and still made a mistake. Do you love her any less? Why?
Because they did their best.
Riders. How many of you, when you make a mistake, how many of you love yourself a little less? How many of you go, oh, have you ever done that before? Listen carefully. Riders, did you realize that you define your horse's and your best friend's performance based on effort? Yet you define your performance based on outcome. We don't necessarily know why it's happened. We don't know why the human has developed that skill. But we know how to stop it, riders. We need to treat ourselves like we treat our horses. We need to hold ourselves to a higher level. No longer feeling bad because we made a mistake or didn't win a blue ribbon. But by defining ourselves based on the effort that we put in. So riders, there are 8 fears that cause show jitters. You know what they are: failure, perfection, spectators, unharming, humiliation. You know what I'm doing. I'm going through my acronym. Being judged, opponents, winning, losing, and letting people down. Those things hurt us. They create pressure. That pressure makes us feel like we're in a fishbowl. Everyone's staring at us critical. There's so much pressure that's holding the lid down we can't get out. This is how you let the lid out. You let the lid off. Guys, come up with your 3 masks. It's so important. Find those 3 masks. If you don't know what they are now, I need you to talk amongst each other at dinner or talk to your trainer. Find those masks. Because if you're focusing on those masks, your brain bucket is full, you can't focus on any of the other negative stuff. Focus on your 3 masks. Be okay being imperfect from time to time. Don't feel bad about it. As long as you give 100% effort, you're safe, you're cool, you're good. Guys, find your 3 masks. Be okay making 3 mistakes from time to time. When you make mistakes, you can even be bummed out for a second. Figure out what the message was in that little mess up. Then say, okay, move on and do your best. That's all you can do. Focus on you, not others. Focus on your efforts, not your outcomes. All right, guys. I want to thank all of you for spending the day with me. It went so long. I expected us to be way ahead of schedule. We are now officially behind schedule. I want to thank you guys for staying throughout the dinner. However, before I go, I want to make sure I don't leave with any unanswered questions. Think about the clinic today. Do any of you have any questions about the clinic today? The whole purpose of why we did that. I know you can, guys, remember, your brain is full at 3. I asked you to do 6. Y'all can remember 10, 20 change. Do y'all agree you can remember that pretty easily? I could even say 10, 20 change and your horse could be a bit of an idiot and you'd still remember that. Your brain is good with 3. But as soon as I added a 4th one, we got ourselves into trouble. And then as soon as I added the 4th one to the gates, now we're well past our brain's natural ability. So riders, if you can come up with 3 things to focus on, I know you can remember them. Focus on them, be okay not always being okay, find the mistakes, yell 1, move on, and finish by doing your best. Are there any questions about this seminar? Do you all see how the paper kind of comes into play here? I tell people to take notes and I get what you're thinking, but it's pretty nice to see it right there in front of you. And now somebody will take a picture of it and give it to, well, to everybody, you know, who couldn't be here. So we got videos and we got some papers, so yeah. All right, guys, do we know what time we're starting tomorrow? Is it 9 o'clock?
I think so.
I believe so.